fantastic.
Taking clips from games out of context. Never change, Anita. Never change. Oh, for fuck's sake. Why have I doing this? Why am I doing this?
This episode comes with a content warning for game footage involving hypersexualized female characters, and is not recommended for children.
Oh my god, there's a trigger warning for that? A trigger warning because some women happen to be wearing revealing clothes, and apparently that's gonna harm children. Seriously, Anita? Seriously? Wow, you really are becoming more like the Jack Thompson at Mary Whitehouse person. Every passing video, every passing tweet, and every passing moment. Wow. I can't stop.
As always, remember that it's both possible and even necessary to be critical of the media we enjoy.
Unless they happen to be feminist, am I right, Anita?
That's going to be especially important to keep in mind given the video game franchise we're about to discuss.
Oh my, Anita, I'm intrigued. Please, do go on. Metroid? Surely out of all the video games about women with awards, you'd pick the one game that has a woman as the protagonist? But I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Anita, as usual.
In 1987, Nintendo released a 2D action-adventure game for their Nintendo Entertainment System.
Anita, as you can plainly see, it says 1986. Get it right!
Which departed from traditional video game conventions.
Why yes, mechanically speaking, it did, but of course we're not talking about video game conventions mechanically and graphically and everything else about that. We're talking about how it depicts its women's.
Metroid starred a bounty hunter named Samus Aran, who's covered head to toe in the now iconic cybernetic power suit. The game's manual referred to the protagonist with male pronouns and described his identity as shrouded in mystery.
Now, Anita, we're going to have to give you a history lesson here, and you're not going to like it. And this is from IGN, because, you know, might as well get some information right from your ally's horse's mouth. Well, to be fair, IGN's mostly neutral, but never mind, let's continue. Okay, and this is from an article about 6 things we never knew about Metroid for the 25th anniversary, when actually now it's going to be 30 next year. So anyway, where were we? Number 1. All the way number 1. Right in the 1, that's all I need to read, right? Number 1, Armorless Samus is all-American. Right, okay, never mind. Okay. So, everyone everywhere knows about how Samus Aran was originally a dude. The developers switched her gender over to female partway through development of the first Metroid, then only revealed her womanliness in the ending credits if you completed the game fast enough. And then you could even play through the game again with her gender totally unobscured, as an armorless version of Samus, wearing only a bikini that was available if you typed in the proper password. That's not a bikini, that's actually either a swimsuit or a spandex thingy, whatever. I don't know what you call them. I wasn't born in the 80s. And they continue, but that never happened in Japan, since Metroid was first released as a Famicom Disk System title in Nintendo's home country. It had save slots to record players' progress and no password system. The passwords only came into the picture with the American localization of the game in 1987, and it was only with the password feature that you could access Armorless Samus, aka Justine Bailey Samus, named for the most popular password that triggers the costume swap. So the playable bikini mode was basically just added as a bonus for Americans. It would then go on to be included in Europe's version of the game as well, but poor Japanese players were stuck with just a normal, fully armoured Aran. They had to wait years for the introduction of the character's form-fitting Zero suit to finally get to control her outside the armour. So there we have it, Anita. There we have it. A quick history lesson, but of course you're going to completely ignore everything I just said there. But, you know, we might be returning to this. But that is why, in the liner notes... This is only a theory. I have 2 theories for these liner notes. That is why they referred to her as a man. One, to keep it a secret, because at the end it was revealed to be a woman, so it's kind of a, oh shit, I did not know, wow. Or it could simply have been a translation error, because remember, this is a Japanese game, not an American/European game, so of course, you know, maybe the pronouns weren't translated properly. This was an era notorious for bad translations, Anita, but, we're just going to assume, because this is feminist frequency, that the pronouns were injected there on purpose because Nintendo are sexist.
Metroid was notable as an early example of a game that employed multiple alternative endings, which could be unlocked based on the player's gaming skill and performance. If the player is able to complete the game in under 5 hours, a short cutscene will play featuring the protagonist without their armored helmet, revealing that Samus Aran is in fact a woman. This was a significant moment in gaming history, especially for many female gaming fans, because at the time, nearly all protagonists were just assumed to be male by default.
No, Anita. Most video game protagonists didn't really have a gender. In fact, most of these games at the time, you played, like inanimate objects such as airplanes, spaceships, with no backstory other than why you were killing all these aliens or dots on the screen. I mean, Pac-Man was probably one of the first gendered heroes. But apart from that, no, it was not assumed to be default male. In fact, Samus was not even the first video game heroine of note. And I'll give you several examples, Anita, but, you're not going to listen to me. This is agenda pushing after all. But people, let us continue. And the first one I'm going to show you this is from hardcoregaming101.net. And I'll just play around with a few of them. So here's the first one. And this is the oldest one that they've got. Benthy from Galactic Saga 4, Tuala's Last Redoubt, 1981. Galactic Saga was a series of ancient strategic simulations created by Douglas Carlston and published by Broder Bund. In the fourth game, they mention she is the leader of the rebel forces. And in the game, she's only ever seen to sit in a commander's tent, but in the manual, there is a depiction of her sporting a magnificent afro. So there we have it, one of the first video game characters that are female. Obviously female, depicted as female, and of course, Miss Pac-Man was only made a couple of years after this woman, so Samus was definitely not the first female video game character of note. Probably the first one to be very, very famous, but not the first one that female gamers would be aware of. And they continue, and they mention Kim Kimberly from Snowball and Return to Eden, Charity Flair and Agatha Marbles from Murder on the Zinderneuf, which is a murder mystery game, the water ski athlete from Tropical Angel, athletes from Joshi Volleyball and Field Day and 40-0, Becky from Otemba Becky, no Daibuken e Tomboyish Becky's Large Adventure, which is a Japanese game, which is obviously a game based on Donkey Kong. And then there's Jenny from Jenny of the Prairie, Papri from Girls Garden, the Golfers from Queen's Golf and Hole in the One. All these before Metroid, by the way. The Granny from Bionic Granny. Some of these games are quite obscure, but I'm sure they would not have necessarily been unknown in the 1980s. Princess Kurumi from Ninja Princess. Clarice from City Connection. Kissy, Taki and Homi from Baraduke 1985 and Baraduke 2. Bakutotsu Kujete in 1988. Some of these are obviously, Japanese only, but again, Samus is not the only one. And now we're getting closer Metroid's time era. So, Rika Kirishima from Time Gal, Flash Gal from Flash Gal, Yuki from Onosansiru Typhoon Gal 1985, Tyra from Gauntlet. There's a game that most people will know of. Gauntlet had a female character that you could play as. Amelie Minuit from Amelie Minuit 1985, Alexandra from Lode Runner's Rescue, which is a reversal of the damsel in distress thing that you so love to debate, Anita. And this is the last one on this page, but obviously we can continue, but I'm not going to bore you guys. The heroine from Lady Master of Kung Fu 1985. All these, plus the one that I mentioned, which is probably on the prior page, were female video game characters from before Samus that gamers would have been aware of, male and female. So you're talking out your ass, Anita. You're talking out your ass.
Remember, this was back before the internet, when you couldn't just hop online to find out about all the secrets and spoilers. So for many players, the ending of Metroid came as a genuine surprise.
That's the point, Anita. It's called a twist ending.
Still, the subversion only worked provided players were skilled enough to achieve the surprise ending. In retrospect, Samus's gender reveal perhaps should not have been as shocking as it was, considering that Metroid is heavily influenced by the Alien films.
Now, I wasn't born in that time, and you are in your early 30s, you were barely born in that time. And from what I've heard from people who played the game, it wasn't shocking, it was surprising. It was a what the fuck moment, but not a shocking what the fuck moment, because as I've already mentioned, there were female video game characters. It's because Samus in the book that you read from was, talked of as a man. And because, for whatever reason, they didn't change it, it became a twist ending. And it worked in Nintendo's favour. You see, when you don't see a protagonist's face through the entire game, and they're just decked out in power armour, you're going to assume things. You're going to assume, hey, I'm playing a guy. Okay, whatever. And then when you see it's actually revealed as a woman, you're like, wow! Wow, really? It wasn't whoa, it's a woman. No, it's wow. I'm actually playing a woman. Well played, Nintendo. You got me there. That's what I've heard them talk about. Not the way that you're describing them as feeling. But, well, these are feminists. They always know what we're thinking.
Sadly, the alternate endings did not stop there. The two best endings make Metroid one of the first games to exploit the women as reward trope.
Sorry, what? Samus is not a reward trope. You're playing as her. They just reveal her identity properly. That's not a reward trope. What? It's just an ending to the game. There are several other endings, as you say. Are they not rewards then? But it's because she's revealed to be a woman. Therefore, she's a reward for all the men. Even though women were playing these games too. But never mind.
As both reveal Samus in various states of undress.
As I've already mentioned, she's not undressed. She's just wearing standard 80s spandex that you can go about and go into the world back then and nobody would blink. Nobody would batter an eyelid. It's the 80s. She's dressed as an 80s woman who's going to their yoga classes. What the fuck?
The better a player does, the more clothing is removed. If the player completes the game in under 3 hours, Samus is shown without her armor and in a leotard. If the player finishes in under 1 hour, they're treated to Samus in a bikini.
So what? It's just a Japanese thing that they've done for generations. That's not a sexist thing. So what? We're seeing her in a bikini. It's probably a joke in all likeliness, not to be taken seriously. But of course, feminists don't have a sense of humour. So to them, this is evil oppression. It's oppression of women. It's just a bikini. Jesus Christ. And it's the 80s.
So yes, Samus wasn't a damseled woman waiting at the end of the game as a trophy. Rather, her body itself became the prize awarded to players for a job well done.
No, it wasn't. Not really. It's just a reveal of her identity. That's the reward, not her body. It's 8-bit graphics, for fuck's sake. What are people going to take out of that? Nobody's going to be going, oh, mid-80s Samus Aran, are they? No. One, it's a joke, and it's a Japanese thing to do, as we've seen throughout the generations. This is what they do. This is their thing. To them, this is nothing. It's only to our Western conservative ears and eyes, etc., that we see this as such a problem. I mean, really, it's not. So what? Who knows what Nintendo's original thing was for this? Who cares? All I know is that this is not a reward for the player. The reward is, yeah, you beat the game. Here's who you were playing this entire time. We tricked you there, didn't we?
Later games in the Metroid series continued the convention of rewarding players with endings featuring Samus in various states of undress.
Or, and this is just a radical new way of seeing this, being decked out in power armor must be fucking hot in there. Maybe she's just undressing because she's tired and dirty and sweaty. Maybe that's why. And because young males were playing this and young lesbians were playing this, they kind of thought, ooh, sexy. That's just a byproduct of showing this, not the cause. Okay, Anita? Maybe Samus is just tired and wants to relax. That's what people do. We relax in our underwear and our pyjamas and our robes, etc. It's what humans do. This isn't something that is oppressing people, Anita. Anita, you and I both remember the 90s to varying degrees, and you know that women used to dress like that in the 90s. That's not undress. It's revealing, but it's not undress.
In one sense, Samus Aran definitely did subvert traditional gender tropes of the 1980s.
But she didn't. As I've already mentioned, there were already female protagonists that gamers already knew about and played.
By taking on the role of intrepid hero.
See my other examples. Hell, just Google it. It took me 5 seconds to Google that there were loads of intrepid heroes that were female, Anita. Stop misrepresenting the 80s. Stop lying to your audience. The 80s was not this sexist, gender role specific era for games as you think it is. In fact, as we gamers and Gamergate have been arguing for the past year, in fact, the past several years since you've been doing this, in fact, before Gamergate, games have always been diverse. Always been diverse. We've always had female heroines, male heroines, heroines that aren't white, heroines that aren't straight, heroines that aren't even cis. You keep trying to make them look like they're not like that, but they have always been diverse. The audience has always been diverse. You see, don't you think that the mostly white audience of the 80s, because remember, these are the demographics, other than, the Asians, who could afford it, who could afford a Famicom or a NES. Do you think they would have complained? Hell no, they loved this shit. That's why they bought it. And we only remember the absolute classics, because, as I mentioned, some of those games are, quite obscure. Not all of them, such as Gauntlet. So you're wrong there, Anita. You're wrong.
However, she and her body were still presented to players as prizes to be won. The convention of earning access to cutscenes or ending vignettes with eroticized female bodies can be found in many types.
Have you been to a drag race like that? Have you been to events like that? They always have beautiful women. In F1, they always have beautiful women who hand prizes to the people who then hand the prizes to the race car drivers. That is a tradition. That is reflecting real life. That is not a reward for the gamers. The reward is winning the trophy in the game, you nincompoop.
Titles over the past 30 years.
So, a game set, I assume, in ancient Greek myth, because she's calling for Apollo, not Apollo Creed, by the way, and she's obviously, imprisoned, kind of like Leia from Return of the Jedi, and yet she's a prize rather than the goal, Jesus Christ, Anita. Anita, another reality check fail. It's a boxing match. Beautiful women are always in boxing matches, congratulating the boxers, saying hello to the boxers, showing the round numbers. That is real life. That is replicating real life boxing matches, Anita. That is not the reward. The reward is winning the boxing match. Jesus Christ, Anita. It's not hard to see. Stop misrepresenting these games. I've not even played any of these games as far as I know, apart from a little bit of Metroid, yet I can definitely see what you're trying to do here, Fullmac and Anita. This is clearly a James Bond style cutscene where, say, he'll crash into a window or parachute onto a boat and he sees a beautiful woman. That is literally what James Bond does. That's all it's doing. It's a joke. That is a joke scene, Anita. Again, a joke scene. You keep making these out to be rewards, yet none of these are rewards. None of these appear to be rewards. You're just saying they're rewards and hoping that this evidence makes all your sheepish fans think, oh my god, they're making women into rewards in video games. No, they're not. That is clearly a Carry On style joke. And of course you're American, so you don't know what Carry On is. Carry On is a British farce comedy series from the 1950s to the 1970s where scenes involving, crazy shit, crazy sexual innuendo kind of shit happens. And this is no different to Carry On. I could definitely see a Carry On film with a dumb male character wondering what the elephant is doing, sprinkling water down, and then, looks under the thing and finds out it's a woman. And go, all hell breaks loose and people are laughing. That's exactly what that scene is. It's a farce. It's a farce comedy. Speaking of a farce, this entire video has been one so far. So another joke scene, which is obviously a game that has street racing. The joke being that, don't worry, you won the race, so you're not going to get arrested by this cop. Instead, you've won the race. You've won it. Well done. This woman's here to congratulate you. She is not your reward. The reward is winning the race. Jesus Christ, Anita.
We can trace the roots of the women as reward trope all the way back to the beginnings of the medium itself. As we discussed in our Damsel in Distress miniseries, upon successful completion of many arcade games, players were rewarded with the related Smooch of Victory trope, so named for the kiss the hero received as a reward for rescuing a kidnapped princess.
None of this proves that they're rewards.
Sometimes the prize is blatant, as with the standard hero reward, in which a king will give his daughter to the hero.
This is in literature, Anita. You see this all the time in the great tales and fantastical tales that we see in novels and King Arthur style stories. So a video game doing this is no different. How come it's okay for them to do it, but not video games?
On other occasions, it's taken a step further by employing the parallel sex of victory or rescue sex trope. Yes, it's exactly what you think it is. Instead of a kiss, sex with the rescue victim is the player's reward.
We see this in movies, literature, all sorts. We see it in every kind of dramatic style, every entertainment medium. We have seen the hero or the heroine save someone and their reward is sex. And that's not a bad thing. That is not necessarily a reward to the player, more what happens in the story. If a girl saved me, maybe, you know what, I probably would. If she was hot enough, I would, throw myself, take me to your bed. Because you saved my life. It's a silly thing. It's a silly plot device. But it's not sexist. And it can happen to both genders, by the way. Mass Effect does this all the time, by the way.
That was gonna get ugly. You saved us.
My pleasure, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You saved my life. A bit of joy as recompense is not too much to ask.
I'm intrigued. It's been a tough day. I think some joy might do me good.
Of course, never mind the fact in The Witcher, you can actually choose not to have sex with that woman. You don't have to. You can sort of just say, sorry, not in the mood, I have to go and save the world. And I don't know about Ride to Hell, but I would not be surprised if you also took that out of context. Maybe that was a story-driven thing. You couldn't skip it or do anything. And even then, what's that doing? That's not hurting anyone.
We've coined the women as reward trope to describe a long-running pattern found in interactive media. It occurs when women, or more often women's bodies, are employed as rewards for player actions in video games. The trope frames female bodies as collectible, as tractable, or as consumable, and positions women as status symbols designed to validate the masculinity of presumed straight male players.
That was the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard you say, Anita, apart from the racist thing that you did, and maybe some other shit as well. But that's bullshit. Most of those examples that you gave us were simple things from reality that they've put into the game. The girls aren't necessarily rewards. In fact, the reward is not necessarily the woman, but the service she gives to the player. So in the Witcher example, it's not the woman who is the reward, more the sex she gives to Geralt that he can say no to. None of these examples are saying to the male player that women are objects to be taken, they are status symbols. No. They are not saying that to the player. They are not saying that. That is you misrepresenting these games, putting your sex negative feminism out on display and saying, look, this is what they are. They're trying to show to men that women are just things to be taken, things to be won for. When you could do the exact same thing with female protagonists in every single BioWare game ever made. What the hell?
There's some overlap between the damsel in distress and women as reward, but they function differently.
If anything, Anita, you've kind of shown that they're one and the same thing. There is no overlap. They are the same thing. What's the matter? You're running out of ideas?
While the damsel in distress trope uses women as a plot device to motivate male heroes, the women as reward trope presents women as a formalized reward mechanism, meaning that the reward is coded into the game system itself. The result of this incentive structure is that access to women's bodies, women's affection, or women's sexuality is reduced to a simple equation that guarantees delivery as long as the correct set of inputs are entered into the system.
Wait, so it's a problem because it's a game mechanic. Is that what you're saying? This is problematic because apparently allowing a trope of sorts, even though it's not really a trope, it's a game mechanic, to exist in a game apparently objectifies women and makes them sex objects for men, status symbols, etc. Just because it's a thing it makes this whole thing into a group of ones and zeros. It's a game mechanic, that's why it's bad. That's stupid.
In this way, the women as reward trope helps foster a sense of entitlement, where players are encouraged to view women as something they've earned the right to by virtue of their gaming actions, skills, or accomplishments.
Citation needed, Anita. Not one of those examples showed that. That's you bullshitting.
This is illustrated in arcade classics like Joe and Mac and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. After players save the damsel in both games, she will bestow a kiss on the character who earned the most points on that stage.
Jesus Christ, Anita, you're sounding like an 8-year-old girl. Oh, Mummy, he kissed me on the cheek. Seriously, how is a kiss on the cheek such a bad thing? How does that make men feel entitled to women? It's just a kiss on the cheek. You see that in cartoons and in books and in comics and pretty much anything. That's a literary device. Jesus Christ, Anita.
I owe you one.
Oh look, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle didn't like being kissed. Surely that's attacking that guy's personal space, and it's slightly, I don't know, what's the word? Rapey?
Entitlement to women is made even more explicit in many versions of Double Dragon. At the end of the game, after the final boss has been defeated and the damsel in distress saved, Player 1 and Player 2 must fight each other over who gets to have Marion, and with her, the smooch of victory.
Or maybe it's a joke on the fact that this woman just split up the bromance that these guys have developed throughout the entire game. Maybe it's just, I don't know, a joke!
Notice that Marion's desires are not part of the equation. She has no say in the matter. She simply fills the role of a trophy for whichever player is ultimately victorious. This scene serves as inspiration for similar scenarios in more contemporary games like Castle Crashers.
So, a game that is competitive and is point-based is now sexist for doing its job, which is to reward a player a victory of the game. The woman's not the prize, she is the symbol of the prize. She is simply a joke to show, this player's better than you because he beat you in this game. So player 1 wins, or player 2 wins. So basically what you're saying is Double Dragon is actually not a co-op game in the sense that up until the end, you have to fight each other to see who has actually won the game. That's so stupid, Anita.
We've identified 6 primary ways the women as reward trope manifests in video games. Over the course of this episode, we will examine each in turn. In addition to the earned cinematics we've already discussed, we will cover the trope as it relates to Easter eggs, unlockable costumes, experience points, collectibles, and achievements.
Oh, no. Save me, people. Oh, I've got more. No.
Easter eggs are intentionally hidden secrets or jokes which developers conceal inside of their games. Like the eggs at a children's Easter egg hunt, these secrets are usually difficult to find, but are meant to be discovered as rewards for particularly industrious gamers. Easter eggs can be hidden messages, items, secret characters, or random events, and their inclusion encourages experimentation with the game's systems and mechanics in order to uncover these extra treasures. Some can be found inside game environments, while others require a cheat code to unlock. For example, if players input a specific button sequence while starting up the 1991 role-playing game Rings of Power, the title screen would change. By pressing down, right, A, B, C, and the start button, players were rewarded with an image of a topless woman next to the Naughty Dog logo.
So, it's basically calling you a naughty dog. Do you not get the joke, Nita? Do you not get the joke?
Easter eggs are, of course, not inherently problematic, and gaming history is filled with examples of neat secrets that designers have hidden away for players to discover. But too frequently, Easter eggs are used as another way to reward players with women's bodies.
Full Mac. Anita, we need to discuss something. Please, sit in the red chairs. Lie down. Have a coffee. Have a cup of tea. Whatever's your fancy. Now, this is going to be quite hard for you to fathom, and as your therapist, I have to be honest with you and very, very upfront, and that is, these women do not exist. These people who play the game, people, It's not just straight men. It's lesbians too. It's straight women too. It's gay men, bisexual people, pansexual people, etc., etc. They are not being rewarded with literal women's bodies. You are not Catholics who assume that once they eat some bread and drink some wine, that becomes the literal body and blood of Christ. Game developers are not committing some kind of transubstantiation of pixels into real bodies. It's not real. Jesus Christ.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 included a secret unlockable character named Daisy, who bore the likeness of porn star Jenna Jameson.
So a marketing gimmick to basically promote Jenna Jameson as a successful porn star is now apparently sexist. She's a porn star who has to make money, Anita. Do you not understand why this is in the game? Maybe they're friends and they're doing each other a favour? I don't know, just wondering.
Daisy's sexualized appearance and skateboard tricks are designed as a reward for those players who unlocked her.
God damn it, you housewife Puritan, Anita. It's Jenna Jameson. She's a porn star. What do you expect they're gonna do?
One way to do that is by entering this code.
Jesus Christ.
Probably one of the most famous women as reward Easter eggs brings us back to Samus Aran.
It's not a reward, it's a plot twist, Anita. We've already gone through this because you're playing Samus. So she can't be a reward, can she?
The original Metroid used a password system to save progress.
The Nintendo Entertainment System version did, yes, but the Famicom version had save process mechanics.
By inputting the secret code Justin Bailey into this system, gamers would unlock a powered-up playable version of Samus wearing only her leotard-style bathing suit. Incidentally, this is the same outfit we covered earlier as an endgame reward, only here she has the powers of the Varia suit and its associated color palette swap, which changes her hair color to green.
So actually, she's not the reward, the costume is the reward, because the costume gives you all the power-ups to defeat all the enemies a lot easier. It's a cheat code, Anita, okay? Not a reward.
Players can then play the entire game as Samus without her space armor. So she ends up exploring a hostile alien world and fighting off deadly monsters in her underwear.
So, it's a video game. It's not meant to be real, Anita. It's not meant to make sense.
Welcome to the HoverCon Intergalactic Hoverboard Competition.
There's a bizarre Easter egg in the original Ratchet & Clank. If the player does a series of side flips in front of a green-skinned alien, the woman's breasts will suddenly begin to inflate. The more gymnastic stunts performed, the larger her boobs will become.
Are you sure that's an Easter egg? It looks like a bug to me.
There are so many women as reward style Easter eggs in the Metal Gear Solid series.
Oh, brilliant. Yet more Japanese games. I'm sure the arbiter of all things are Japanese. Anita Sarkeesian can enlighten us on what Japanese games are like. Sure. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid. Right, do you mean the series that has some of the most badass female characters that have ever been graced on a video game screen? Never mind. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt.
That it would take several hours to go over them all.
At least she's merciful sometimes.
First released for the PlayStation in 1998, and then remade for the GameCube in 2004.
Sorry, Nita, before we go anywhere, the remake is not an official Metal Gear game, but you're going to treat it as if it's an official Metal Gear game, and then you're going to rip on Kojima and Japanese games in general. Oh, god damn it, whatever, come on.
Metal Gear Solid featured not one, but two separate Easter eggs that allow players to see Meryl Silverberg in her underwear. The second of these Easter eggs requires players to follow Meryl into the ladies' room and interrupt her while she's changing. If this is done quickly enough, the next cutscene will play with Meryl in her underwear.
But it's not necessarily an Easter egg, this, though, is it? It's actually a scene that's part of the story. But, oh well, carry on misleading us.
Anyway, how did you recognize me in disguise?
I never forget a lady.
Jumping ahead to the fourth game, the protagonist is assigned a psychologist for PTSD counseling. During these remote sessions, if players shake their PlayStation controller, the psychologist's breasts will bounce and jiggle in response.
Memories began to resurface from his childhood when he fought for Solidus in the Liberian Civil War.
You see, not any of this actually screams out misogyny. This is actually a joke. This is Japanese humour, Anita, but you wouldn't know that. Oh no, wait, you would know it, even though you're supposed to be an expert in all things Japanese gaming and culture, you know? I mean, what was it? Oh yeah, America bombed them into conservatism, isn't that right? Yeah, that's what you said. So of course, you know everything about Japanese culture. And by the way, it's a very childish thing, this mechanic, isn't it? I mean, to be fair, I can see why the Kojima put this joke into the game, because nobody wants to sit around waiting for all this exposition about Raiden and about how he became a cyborg ninja or something. So why not, you know, put in a joke about jiggling tits? Makes sense, doesn't it? At least on Kojima's strange mind. But oh well, carry on.
Keep in mind that Easter eggs are not accidents or glitches. They're intentionally put into the game by the designers, and as a result indicate the value that the designers themselves place on these female characters. They communicate to players that yes, these women exist for players to exploit or experiment with for their own amusement.
Citation needed. Can you read their minds? Were you there when they created the game, Anita? No, didn't think so.
Unlockable outfits are additional costumes earned during gameplay, which allow gamers to play dress-up with player characters or party members. Alternative skins, as they're sometimes called, come in all shapes and sizes, and are typically just cosmetic changes to the character's appearance, although sometimes they add special abilities. Many unlockable costumes are cool, wacky, or bizarre, but when applied to female characters, we see a distinct pattern of revealing, hypersexualized outfits.
Jesus Christ, Anita, if there wasn't any evidence that you are a middle-aged housewife trapped inside a 30-year-old's body, there it is. How is that hypersexualized? That woman in that video game should really be, you know, your ideal video game character, you know. No, you know, massive tits coming out, and there's no curvaceous curves. She's just a stick. That's what that character is. She's just a skinny girl. She doesn't even look like an adult, and yet she's in swimwear, which isn't actually swimwear. She's actually in beachwear. She's got just short shorts and a bra on and some sandals on. That's nothing unusual. Jesus Christ, Anita, do you go to the beach and every time you see women in their bikinis or just in their like summer clothes, you just think, ugh, they need to cover up. That's disgusting. I hate to live a life like you.
Fetishized bunny, cat, maid, or nurse costumes are commonly used by developers as a way to pander to an assumed straight male player base. It's important to remember that sexualization is not necessarily just about the amount of skin showing, but is instead connected to the question of whether or not a costume is eroticized for the express purpose of titillation.
Hey, why were you wearing that stuffy-looking suit of armor?
Oh, you didn't like it? It's pretty sturdy and protects my body quite nicely. See? Look at this beautiful skin free of bruises and blemishes.
Very nice. I'm actually worried where my eyes might wander.
You don't look all that worried to me.
I've just got a good poker face. So you're okay? You don't mind leaving your armor behind?
It's sturdy, but it's heavy. Walking around with that on tires me out.
Hey, no complaints here. I prefer eye candy to scary armor any day.
Well, flirting is sexist, according to Anita Sarkeesian. You heard it here first, people.
These types of unlockable outfits can be especially pernicious since they often end up undermining women who are otherwise appropriately dressed for active or professional roles.
My god, it's not realistic. The
Resident Evil franchise has been particularly guilty of this over the years. Almost every major release in the series has included the women as reward trope. Resident Evil is a bit unusual in that since its beginnings in the mid-90s, the franchise has featured a large number of playable female protagonists.
It's not unusual. Final Fantasy was doing this. There are loads of games in the 90s that had female protagonists. Oh my god.
Most of whom are skilled zombie fighters and have impressive professional resumes, to say the least. Rebecca Chambers is a police officer and medic in the Special Tactics and Rescue Service. Players can dress her up in sexy nurse and cheerleader costumes. Jill Valentine is a high-ranking Special Operations Agent in the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, and also the Master of Unlocking. She can be placed in sexy policewoman and sexy pirate outfits. Claire Redfield is a member of a human rights organization that provides aid during bioterrorism incidents. She can be turned into a motorsport umbrella girl. Sherry Birkin is a U.S. government agent working with the Division of Security Operations, and here she's wearing a schoolgirl outfit. Helena Harper is a Secret Service agent and a former member of the CIA. Her unlockable costumes include another sexy policewoman, complete with miniskirt and garter belt. Shiva Alamar is an agent for the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, operating in the West African branch. The tribal print bikini outfit is especially disconcerting because it combines the sexualization of a female character with the racist tradition of exotifying women of color, particularly women of African ancestry. More on that topic in an upcoming video.
Who cares, Anita? None of this makes these women trophies. None of this does anything. It's just cosmetic. It's purely for fun. You know, you can do this in The Sims. You can do this in a lot of games. I don't understand your point here, Anita. This has nothing to do with the trophy trope or anything. This is just cosmetic. This is to spruce up the game and make it a bit silly. It's nothing. And of course, showing these people's lack of imagination and just, you know, terrible argument making, they have to revert back to Resident Evil 5, which they've reused and rehashed so many times in their arguments. It's cosmetic. It's not racist. She is African. She's from that area. So how can it be sexist? People do dress like that. People do dress like that in Africa. Not everyone, but people in a specific region do dress like that. If anything, it's empowering to some women to see her like that, kicking ass. Jesus Christ, Anita.
As a reward for completing the main game under specific conditions, players gain the ability to shove these female police and special agents into the digital equivalent of those patronizing sexy Halloween costumes we see mass-produced every year.
Wow, for more proof that you are a conservative pretending to be left-wing, Anita, or who thinks she's left-wing. Halloween costumes patronizing. Seriously? If they're so patronizing, how come women wear them every year? And they sell out every single Halloween, Anita. See, not every person in the world is a killjoy like you.
These ensembles are not only completely inappropriate for the mission at hand, but also reduce otherwise capable characters to sexual objects for the voyeuristic enjoyment of players.
No, Anita, it's cosmetic and it's for fun. It's not for voyeurism. Jesus Christ. You seem to just think you know how all men think and feel about these things. As if you know exactly what the developers were thinking when they were putting this in the game. You think there's a patriarchal committee where we all sit down and we discuss how we're going to objectify women and exploit them. No, Anita, it's fun. It's called fun. But that's an alien concept to you. You think of fun and you're like, ugh. That's you, Anita.
None of this makes any sense. What did we do?
Wish I could tell you.
The latest game in the series, 2015's Resident Evil Revelations 2, continues this condescending tradition by offering DLC that puts Claire Redfield into a sexualized cowgirl outfit and forces Moira into whatever the hell this is supposed to be. The developers call it an urban ninja costume.
I'm sorry, Anita, but this is just projection. The only person being condescending and patronizing here is you. You're just looking at us as if, how dare you do such a thing? Behave. Be proper mature adults. And it's like, no, we don't want to be what you want us to be, Anita. And was that really supposed to be some kind of unscripted thing in the video? Right. That couldn't look more fake if you tried.
Meanwhile, the male playable character Barry gets a gentleman's commandant alternative costume.
Right, and that's not cherry-picked at all, is it, Anita?
Alternative costumes for men are rarely objectifying. They're instead presented as tough guy power fantasies for other straight men to identify with.
So they're objectified, Anita, right? Because I don't identify with that. I don't look like that guy. And I've seen loads and loads of costumes that objectify men. In fact, here's one right now that I covered recently. So, yeah, Anita, you're talking out your ass.
And when men are stripped down to their beachwear, it's most often meant as a lighthearted joke.
So is the women's too, Anita. You know, why is it that when... You see, this is the double standard yet again. It's It's different when it's men. It's different when it's men. Oh, it's horrible when it's women. It's okay when it's men. It's okay for us to objectify men. Oh, it's not actually objectification. It just depends how sex negative you are, isn't it? If you're not sex negative when it comes to men, you love the objectification of men. But when you are sex negative, you say it doesn't exist when it's right there in front of you. That photo alone of that guy, that MMA style guy, whatever he is, that was objectification whether you like it or not, because most men don't look like that.
Shifting to an example of a game that does alternative female costumes right, Alice Madness Returns features a wide assortment of imaginative, unlockable dresses. And if you must go the bunny girl or cat girl route, this right here is definitely the way to do it.
So basically, you want them to cover up to the point where no skin is showing apart from their arms, right? And it's basically a burqa. You want them to wear a burqa. Just admit it. You want women to dress like the Middle Eastern women. Is that it? You know, from something like Saudi Arabia, isn't it? It's funny that you mentioned Alice, because American McG actually hates people like you. I'm paraphrasing. He dislikes you. He doesn't like people telling him how he can and cannot make a video game. He's come out talking against you social justice warriors and feminists, so I find it kind of ironic that you're using his game in the correct way. Are you trying to score points with him?
In many games, experience points or XP are earned by completing tasks like defeating monsters or finishing quests. Once enough experience points have been accumulated, player characters can periodically level up, making them stronger or giving them access to new abilities.
Leveled up! Sorry for the SVU reference, people. But notice how she's condescendingly and patronisingly lecturing people on basic game mechanics. This just proves that she's not even talking to gamers. Gamers wouldn't need all this. We know exactly what this is. We all know what this means. This is for her audience, the non-gamers. And this is why I don't like her peddling this bullshit, because it's so biased and cherry-picked that if a person never played video games and saw this, they would be fooled into thinking that this is what games are like. This is what gamers are like. Horrible misogynist shitlords who are exploiting women's bodies for entertainment. I mean, let's just see where she takes this.
Unfortunately, designers sometimes tie the awarding of experience points directly to sexual interactions with female characters, effectively transforming women into conduits which players can utilize to become more powerful warriors. In the 2007 game Conan, for example, dozens of half-naked maidens are chained up throughout the game.
Take me and crush me with your love.
It's Conan. And she clearly gave him consent to make love to her, Anita. That just completely destroys your entire argument right there.
When rescued, they essentially function as sexualized treasure chests, rewarding the player with experience points, which are then used to unlock more powerful fighting moves.
Just a bit longer.
We've reached Athens. Get your things and get out.
A number of other games tie experience points directly to sex. The God of War games, for instance, established a tradition of including mini-games that reward the player for successfully having sex with one or more women. Completing these little quick-time events earn players red orbs that are used to upgrade attacks and magic.
None of these are, again, misogynist or exploitative in any way. In fact, they're quite funny. They're meant to be jokes, Anita. Meant to be fun, but, you know, again, alien concepts to you.
Beginning with the third game, the Grand Theft Auto series allows players to buy sex from prostitutes.
Get in the car.
And rewards them by restoring their health meter.
Anita, in the fifth one, it doesn't happen that way. In the early ones, yes, but by the time of the fifth game, they don't give you health.
In Grand Theft Auto 5, players are given additional encouragement to solicit prostitutes in the form of an increase to their character's stamina rating, which enables those characters to sprint, swim, or ride a bike faster for longer periods of time.
No, you're not. You're not encouraged to do it for a stamina bonus. Just riding that bike alone will increase your stamina in the game. It says it in the tutorial, Anita. Don't misrepresent it. Stop lying and bullshitting to your audience. Just sprinting increases your stamina in that game. Anything physical will make you fitter.
Similarly, in The Witcher 3, Geralt earns a handful of experience points for buying sex from prostitutes, and he earns more points for sex with the courtesans in the wealthier districts than with the strumpets in the poor parts of the city.
Greetings to the honourable gentleman. Welcome. Make yourself at home. What have you come for? We're prepared to fulfill your every whim.
I like you. Like how you look, like how you smell.
So, I fail to see how this is misogynistic in any way, Anita. Sorry. I don't see anything wrong with that. I just don't. It's reflecting reality. Or at least the legend of reality when it comes to The Witcher. But prostitutes exist. What's wrong with games depicting that? Why do you have such a problem with that? That's very swerfy, isn't it, of you?
When women are used as sexualized experience point dispensers, the sexual scenarios are themselves a reward designed to validate the masculinity of presumed straight male players.
Validating my masculinity? What does that even mean, Anita? Can you even tell me what that means? Why would me going to a fictional and made-up character in a video game that happens to be a prostitute validate my sexuality in any way? How does it validate my masculinity? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not real. Surely going out into the world and getting myself a girlfriend or an actual prostitute or pulling a girl at the bar would validate it more. Surely? What does that even mean? That doesn't make sense. And you think that developers are there at the desk making the concept for this game like, we've got to find a way to validate people's masculinity. How do you know that? You're just making assertions throughout this entire video. There is no evidence for this. Game footage is not enough because everyone knows that you steal the footage and you take it out of context, as you've done right then and there.
But there's a dual reward here. Absorbing these expressions of female sexuality carries with it the ability for male characters to grow stronger, faster, and more capable, reducing the women to points in a mathematical equation that directly links the flippant consumption of female sexuality to an increase in male power.
On the flip side, you could say that's a good thing, because without these women, the guys are weak.
Note that while the consumption of women makes male characters more powerful, it has nothing to do with mutual relationship building. The relationship, such as it is, ends with sex, or rescuing the woman. At that point, she has served her purpose. Players have reaped the benefits, and her value has been depleted.
No, Anita. No, she's not real. She's a prostitute. You can go back to that prostitute again and again if you want to. I did it in The Witcher 2. I went to the same prostitute again and again for shits and gigs. Because I can. Because the game lets me do this kind of thing. It's not real. They're not objectified. That's not evidence. In fact, no, Anita. No, she's not real. She's a prostitute. You can go back to that prostitute again and again if you want to. I did it in The Witcher 2. I went to the same prostitute again and again for shits and gigs. Because I can. Because the game lets me do this kind of thing. It's
like an empty energy drink container, she is simply cast aside after being consumed.
That was nice.
No, Anita. No, she's not real. She's a prostitute. You can go back to that prostitute again and again if you want to. I did it in The Witcher 2. I went to the same prostitute again and again for shits and gigs. Because I can. Because the game lets me do this kind of thing. It's not real. They're not objectified. That's not evidence. In fact,
that's hardly the only problem with female NPCs who are designed to function as sexually objectified set dressing.
Anita, they're NPCs. They're just meant to make the world seem alive. That's their job. The men are the same. Not all NPCs can have detailed background stories. You don't do that when you watch a movie, do you? You don't watch a movie and see an extra who happens to be female walk past the camera and go, you know what? That girl's just background decoration. She has no backstory. She has no character. She's just walking past the camera. You don't do that, do you? Because that's stupid. That doesn't make sense. In order to make the world more lifelike, you have to have extras. And that's what an NPC is. An NPC is either a non-playable protagonist or someone just to make the world seem a bit lifelike. GTA and The Witcher 3, at least, are sandbox games. They're open world. You need NPCs in order to make it lifelike. They are just the extras of the video game world, Anita. They're not objectified things that are just put in for people's pleasure. They're just there to make it lifelike and immersive. It's not rocket science.
For more on the myriad of issues with these types of characters, see our 2 videos on the women as background decoration trope. Collectibles are virtual items placed or hidden throughout a game world for players to find. Some collectible objects have effects on gameplay, such as boosting player stats or serving as score multipliers. Other collectibles are designed simply to be accumulated to provide a sense of accomplishment. Once acquired, some collectibles unlocked concept art or other media fragments that can be viewed later in galleries selected from the game's menu screen. When done well, collectibles inspire exploration and replayability. However, when they're designed to function as an extension of the women as reward trope, players are encouraged to view women's bodies as souvenirs of their adventures.
I'm sorry, but how does a collectible of models make someone think that women are collectibles to be brought, to be captured? That doesn't make any sense, Anita. Why would someone who knows the difference between reality and fantasy suddenly come to that conclusion? This is the problem with your arguments, Anita. In order for your arguments to have any realistic expectation of being true, someone has to be unhinged. They have to not know that video games are fake and they're not real. And your arguments just crumble because 99% of all people know that it's fantasy, that it's not real. So therefore, none of this makes sense. None of this can happen because everybody knows that women are not something to be collected. We know they're not objects, they're human beings with thoughts and feelings. We know this. It's just a video game, Anita.
In the 2010 remake of Splatterhouse, players are encouraged to collect ripped up pieces of photographs of the protagonist's girlfriend, which are strewn around each level. Once the player pieces them together, the completed images consist mostly of private, personal sexual photos.
I swear to God, you put this on the internet and your ass is grass, Buster.
But they're going out with each other. They're in a relationship, Anita. That's what people in relationships do. Not everyone, but that's what they tend to do sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not making someone do anything. It's just a collectible in the game of the guy's girlfriend. You know what? He probably used to give her nudes too. But we don't see him in game. That says nothing, Anita.
Sometimes the women as reward trope takes the form of corporate branded product placement. For instance, 2K Games officially partnered with Playboy to include 50 hidden magazines scattered throughout Mafia 2's open world environment. Once found, each collectible opens to reveal vintage centerfolds from real 1950s Playboy issues. The discovered magazines are then stored in the game's inventory and are available to be perused at the player's whim.
Anita, every time you do this, I can't help but laugh because this is totally, up to you if you want to collect them or not, or if you want to view them or not. I don't think you understand what player choice means, Anita. This is partnering up because they want to make the game more realistic in the sense they want people to be immersed in that 1950s style. Of course, it's the only thing good about the game to some people because Mafia 2 wasn't well received among the fan base, as Louis Laveau said. But that's besides the point. It's 1950s Playboy in order to make you more immersed. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with Playboy. It's not making people misogynistic. And neither is it making women a trophy. This is just a collectible. It's nothing in the game. It gives you nothing but stuff to do. That's all it is. It's stuff to do in the game.
Konami's Metal Gear Solid series took this trend a step further by actually turning pornography into a weapon.
Ooh, weaponized pornography. Run away, Anita. It's your kryptonite.
In Metal Gear Solid 4, there are Playboy magazines scattered throughout the game world for players to find. When acquired, the magazines are stored in the game's weapons inventory, alongside rifles and handguns, and serve a dual purpose. Players can look through the images at their leisure, and also use them to set traps by laying the centerfolds open on the battlefield to distract enemies.
Ooh, what's this?
Again, why Metal Gear? Can't you not come up with other examples? You keep reusing the same shit over and over again, Anita. Look, it's a joke. It's Japanese humor, Anita. It's just a joke. No one in their serious mind would be distracted by a porn mag while they're on their patrol. Anita, it's fantasy. It doesn't do anything to anyone. No one's gonna think, oh, I better objectify women in real life because, you know, I can use porns as traps for men. Surely you should appreciate the fact that this guy is getting punished for reading pornography by getting a shot to the head by Snake. Surely, just asking.
In the first Witcher game, players are awarded romance cards for successfully seducing each of over 24 different non-playable female characters.
Let's take our relationship further.
Come home with me. Let me thank you.
Let's go.
Like other examples we've talked about, these pornographic collectibles are saved in the player's inventory and are available to be ogled at any time. The souvenirs function as a private trophy collection, encouraging players to view these female characters as sexual conquest and acquire as many different flavors of women as possible during their playthrough.
Citation needed, Anita. How does this encourage players to view women as trophies and collectibles and as sexual conquests? That woman clearly wanted to have sex with Geralt, so how the hell does that encourage the players to see her as a sexual conquest, like a pick-up artist would? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
If collectibles in the player's inventory work as a private trophy collection, then achievements serve as a public trophy case, on display for all to see. Achievements, or trophies, are meta-goal award systems built into most popular gaming platforms. Unlike collectibles, achievements are earned through in-game actions, but awarded outside of the game environment itself and have no effect on gameplay. Some achievements are rewarded for skill or completion of tasks, while others are arbitrary challenges set up by developers.
Oh, please. Are you really just doing this for the achievement? Click a door 5 times. Is that all that you think an achievement is worth? No. I can't just give these merits away for such little effort.
The Stanley Parable, Anita. Really? It's a satire of pretty much every game that has ever existed. It's not meant to be taken seriously. In fact, all these tropes and game mechanics and stuff that you've been complaining about this entire video are jokes. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's good old-fashioned fun. I keep repeating this same thing over and over again. But it's true, it's fun. You're mistaking jokes for serious attacks on women. But it's not, it's just a joke. Even women like this shit, Anita. But no, instead gamers are just straight men who love to oogle at women. Never mind that lesbians also like this shit, Anita. Because as I once saw on, I think it was the Honey Badgers, someone actually misquoted a lesbian girl who said, if they take tits out of video games, I'm fucking done. It was a lesbian who said that, but they made that look like a man said it, but it wasn't. So you are being sexist by denying these women a voice in your criticisms. Did you ever think about that, Anita?
These systems encourage replayability and provide players with incentives to spend more time inside the game space, experimenting with its environments and characters. By default, your achievements are visible to anyone who views your profile on a gaming platform, and thus they allow players to show off their gaming skill or dedication to their friends. In other words, achievements are designed to function as status symbols for gamers.
A gaming achievement is considered a status symbol amongst gamers. And further proof that this woman, and John McIntosh who writes it, know fuck all about the very culture that they're even writing about. You see, to gamers, the more achievements you have, the less of a status symbol it actually is. I mean, if you look at someone who has literally every conceivable achievement in their games, that shows they don't really have much of a life, and that they're really just... I hate to use the word, I don't want to sound anti-nerd, but they're really nerdy. That, you know, they don't spend much time outdoors. They don't really have much of a social life. That's what it says to other gamers. It's not necessarily a good thing to have all the achievements, Anita. It's not a status symbol. Nothing like that at all. It's just a fun thing to put in your game.
A whole host of games reward players with trophies for successfully having sex with one or more female characters. A suspicious number of those achievements are called Ladies' Man.
The gods have truly blessed you, Kratos.
Other games in the God of War series use a variety of euphemistic naming schemes for this. In the PS3 version of the original game, the trophy's titled Rockin' the Boat. In Ghost of Sparta, players receive the A Hero's Welcome trophy. and in Chains of Olympus, the award is called Two Girls, One Spartan.
Oh, did you hear the scorn at the end of that? Anita is a joke. That's all I need to say. It's a joke.
Oh, Nico, I really like you.
Some games in the Grand Theft Auto series offer achievements for betting a girlfriend.
I think she likes me.
Anita, she betrays you in the game. You've had 2 examples of girlfriends that betray you in the game. Do you realise that? And Grand Theft Auto 4 is not the best game for, depictions of sex, believe me.
Just so we're clear on what's happening here, players are receiving a literal trophy for achieving sex with a woman.
No, Anita, it's not a literal trophy. It's just a silly thing you get from achieving something in the game. You can get them for just finishing a level. That was part of the story. That is finishing a part of the story in that game, Anita. It's not a literal trophy for having sex with a woman. And so what? How is that a bad thing? How is having sex with someone and getting a trophy necessarily a bad thing in a game? How is that a bad thing? It's not even a reward. These things are just minor inconveniences to some gamers. They don't like achievements. They find it to be off-putting.
When games such as these award players with achievements or trophies for sexual conquests, they are directly reinforcing negative ways of thinking about the dynamics between men and women in our society.
What? How does that make anyone think negatively about men and women's relationships in society, Anita, for a stupid video game achievement? How does that make me misogynistic? How does that make me view women as a trophy? Because it doesn't. I don't view women as a trophy because a video game happens to put an achievement after you have sex with a woman in the video game. That doesn't make sense, Anita. Citation needed. Citation needed once again.
By presenting sex as an end goal of men's interactions or relationships with women, these games frame sexual encounters as challenges to be overcome.
Anita, in Grand Theft Auto 4, that scene is not a challenge to be overcome. It happens regardless of what you do. You are supposed to build a relationship with this woman. She was his girlfriend until she betrays him to the law. Anita, sex is not considered a challenge in most of these games you mentioned. In fact, I know there are games that do have sex as the main goal, yet you've not once even remotely used them in this video.
Let me emphasize that the problem here is not necessarily that sex is included in these games.
Right, Anita, because it wasn't the sex that you were totally annoyed about, eh?
By presenting sex as a goal and then presenting players with an award for accomplishing that goal, these achievements function as a form of trophyism.
I'm sorry, but what the fuck? Trophyism? But to a lot of people, sex is a goal. People want to have sex. A goal is something that you want. How is that wrong? How is that wrong? It's not the games that are telling people that. People just, if someone's trying to have sex with someone or wants to have sex with someone, trying to persuade them, it's obviously the goal is to have sex. How is that wrong? I'm just wondering, Anita. I'm just wondering. That is how we're supposed to reproduce. The goal is to have children, then those children grow up and have to survive, and then they start having feelings, sexy feelings, and then the goal is to have sex so that more kids are made. That is the primary purpose of a human being, to reproduce. That is the goal of the species, technically, within a scientific mould. So how is that a bad thing? How is sex as a goal such a bad thing, Anita? And how does a game, which is only reflecting society's reality, bad for that? That doesn't make sense.
Simply put, trophyism is the tendency for men to view women as objects to be collected and displayed as status symbols of their sexual prowess or virility. These trophy women then serve as a way for men to assert their social status among and relative to other men.
I'm sorry, but I have never met any man who is like that. I have never seen someone parade their girlfriend or girlfriends like that in my life. And neither of you, Anita. That is something that you and Full Macintosh have made up on the spot in order to, basically parrot this bullshit anti-male message to your viewers. This is only what this is. This is just an entire video that is anti-male, anti-masculinity. It's just prejudice. The only prejudice things here is you and Macintosh and what you're saying. I can't believe what I'm hearing here. In fact, the only thing that can remotely be considered as trophyism is polygamous relationships in Islam. When a caliph parades his harem to the world or something. But even then, that's a stretch, because that's just polygamous relationships. And those women want to be in a relationship with him and the other girls. So, then again, who am I to judge and who are you to judge?
The fame point system in the 2004 version of Sid Meier's Pirates provides us with a stark illustration of trophyism. In the game, romancing and then rescuing any of the game's many governor's daughters not only rewards your pirate with the option to marry her, but also wins him extra fame points. The daughters are largely interchangeable, they don't even have names, and their value as a reward is tied directly to their appearance. Courting and marrying a plain daughter earned fewer fame points than marrying an attractive one, and marrying a beautiful daughter earns the most points of all. Fame points then directly contribute to the social status your character achieves at the end of the game. Depending on the amount of points accrued, you can end up as anything from a lowly pauper to a powerful governor. Other ways to earn fame points include acquiring wealth and defeating rivals. Like all your swashbuckling escapades, acquiring a woman becomes just another feather in your proverbial cap, functioning to elevate your prestige and renown in society.
So Sid Meier's Pirates is trying to accurately portray what life was like back in the 1700s and 1800s, when back in the day, rich people and people who weren't quite rich but could become rich married for status and wealth, which was perfectly the norm back then. People used to do that. So basically this is a game about becoming a success within the parameters of the 1700s and 1800s. That's not trophyism. That's a man trying to climb the social ladder. These women are a higher status of him. Without them, he can't possibly become a success. That's not a bad thing. They are not trophies. They are a way to help him become a success, to become rich or to become poor. That is trying to be an historical representation of back then. It's using the historical language of the 1700s and 1800s. Anita, that's not trophyism.
And since in the game's Xbox Live Arcade release there are achievements for getting married and for courting governors' daughters from all 4 nations at once, these accomplishments also increase your gaming status. Achievements on Sony PlayStation platforms are called trophies, but back when they were first introduced, they were called entitlements, which is a fitting name for those that fall into the women as reward trope.
Citation needed. I've never heard them being referred to as entitlements.
Since entitlement, or more specifically male entitlement, is the crux of much of what we've been discussing in this video, let's take a moment to define what male entitlement actually means. First, the word entitlement refers to the conviction that someone deserves something, that they are owed it, that they have a right to it. By extension, male entitlement is the conviction that men are owed something by virtue of their gender. It's the belief structure that tells men they deserve to have their whims catered to, both culturally and interpersonally. One of the most harmful aspects of male entitlement is the false belief that men have a right to survey and use women's bodies.
That is projection. That is stone cold projection. Because I have never ever met a man like that. In fact, 99.99% of all men are not like that. That actually does not describe men. That does not describe all men that you are trying to paint us all as. In fact, that actually describes feminists and women better than it does men. Every time there's a woman saying, "Oh, can you open the door? Can you open this jar for me? Can you go to the shop and get some? Oh, can you reach up to that shelf and get me something, please? I'm too small." Feminists are like that. Feminists feel they're entitled for the world to cater to their needs. This is what you've been doing. You have came into the gaming world and told us gamers that our culture is wrong and how we go about things are wrong. You've gone to the developers and told them that the way they make their games is wrong, that you know better, that you know how to make a much better game that caters to your needs only, not the rest of our needs, your needs only. You're the one who is entitled here. You feminists are the ones who are entitled. You're the ones trying to change the world for you. You know, use the proper pronouns, or you're oppressing me. Oh, please, please, please. Stop saying those words because they're problematic to me. Shut up. We are not like that. We who your targets are, we are not the entitled ones. And in fact, this is pure sophistry, because if you'd used it at the beginning, you know, you might have made your argument a lot weaker than if you put it at the end. Putting it at the end makes it very easy to keep this argument going for a little bit longer, really, isn't it? Complete sophist you are.
This mentality carries with it a corresponding set of expectations about what women should provide for men. It's a worldview that primarily defines women's social role as vessels of sexuality and men's roles as consumers or patrons of that sexuality. Unlike access to clean water or healthcare, which should be considered human rights that all people deserve simply for being human, access to a woman's affections, her body, or her sexuality is not a right owed to anyone except herself.
Unless she wants to share that with a man or woman in her bed, Anita. God, all of this is such anti-male bullshit. You are such a misandrist. You and Fulmac. Ironically, this is a man writing this shit. This is a guy who hates himself and his gender so much that he has to portray us as these... Actually, that's a spoiler. I'm just going to say that he portrays us in a very negative light, like a certain somebody, which I will say in a minute.
This should be obvious, but unfortunately male entitlement is a pervasive problem in our culture today.
Translation, feminist entitlement is a problem today. But, never mind. It's the men that are ruining everything, not the fucking ideologues.
The male entitlement mindset has a profound impact on how men relate to and interact with women. We see it manifest whenever a man orders a woman to show him her tits, or makes demands during an online game that a woman send him nude or sexual photos. We see it in real-world spaces whenever men catcall women on the street. We see it whenever a man gropes a woman at an event or convention.
Basically, 1% of men who are arseholes. It's funny because when women do this behaviour, you turn a blind eye to it. But never mind, Anita, because, we can't have nuance here. We can't have unbiased reporting and arguments, can we? So, you're saying as if this is a male-only issue. No, it's not. Women's entitlements have not been as vilified and attacked as much as male entitlement. Most of these things you can easily spin and twist and put it onto the other gender, Anita. But of course, you don't care about that. This isn't about women. This is about demonizing men for the feminist cause, so that you can basically socially control people. That's all this is about. This is about socially controlling gamers. And the only way you can do that is by dehumanizing the enemy. And the enemy is the male gamer.
We see it whenever a man expects sex in return for buying a woman dinner. At its most serious, male entitlement is a mentality that serves as the foundation for the epidemics of date rape and sexual assault in our society.
I'm sorry, but none of those are epidemics. And who the fuck expects sex just for taking a girl out to dinner? Who, apart from the most insane arseholes who people shun? Men shun these guys because they're arseholes, alright? Who are these people? And how is this even showing that male entitlement exists? All this is projection. This is all it is.
To be clear, this doesn't mean that every individual man consciously thinks that he has a right to the body of every individual woman he sees.
It's okay, we just subconsciously think this. We don't know we're thinking about this, but we're all guilty of wrongthink. We're all guilty of thinking the wrong thoughts about women, and we just have to, I don't know, unthink, Anita? Unlearn?
Rather, male entitlement operates in the background of our culture. It's a socially constructed mentality that's so deeply ingrained that it's often invisible, operating as an unquestioned base assumption. The critical thing to remember here is that men are not born with this sense of entitlement. It's a learned way of thinking that shapes the ways men relate to women and women's bodies.
Fantastic!
This attitude is taught through a complex socialization process impacted by a whole host of factors.
That was just a load of bollocks. And how does Dead Rising somehow be used as evidence for that? How is Dead Rising evidence of people being socially engineered to be entitled? Men are not socially engineered to be entitled. We are not told to expect things to come to us. We have never been told that society is just going to give us things on a plate. Quite the opposite. I was taught that I had to work for the shit that I wanted to get. I had to work hard to get into university, to get into college, to get where I am now. I had to work hard for that. I have to work hard to get a job. I cannot expect to be mollycoddled and helped along the way like women are. It's women who expect to get things, not men. Women can get things easier than men. My sister is the entitled one. of the family. Not me. I have to work. I have to work hard to get where I am. I didn't get a 2-1 because I was given it because I'm a man. And I didn't get girlfriends because I'm a man and I expected it and they just walked up to me and said, I want to be your girlfriend. Cheers, thanks, I'll take that. No, I worked up the courage to ask them out on dates. I was never taught to expect things because I'm a man. I have to work hard for that shit. Because if I don't work hard, I don't get anywhere. I don't become a success. It's as simple as that.
Families, religions, peer groups, movies, pop music, mainstream pornography, and video games can all play a part in the construction and perpetuation of this mentality. So of course video games on their own are not responsible for single-handedly creating male entitlement. However, because games are interactive systems, they can be programmed to reinforce male entitlement in some unique ways not found in other forms of media. For instance, in Asura's Wrath, when the player stares at a maiden's breasts, she'll try to cover herself up. But if the player keeps staring, they will unlock an achievement called View of the Valley. Similarly, in Lollipop Chainsaw, the player can unlock the I swear, I did it by mistake achievement for using the game camera to look up Juliet's skirt for an extended period of time, despite her coy efforts to block players from doing so. The Casanova achievement in the Saboteur can be unlocked for utilizing a mechanic in which players kiss 50 random women on the street without their consent as a form of camouflage to evade pursuing Nazis.
That's what I'm looking for.
None of this promotes male entitlement. It doesn't make men think that they're entitled to anything. It doesn't make them think they're entitled to women's bodies. They're either quaint little silly things like the Casanova thing, or they're silly Japanese sex jokes like in Asura's Wrath. Did you not hear the boing sound effect? That was his erection. That was meant to be a joke about him, you know, getting aroused by her. And did you hear her laugh? She was having fun with that. They're all jokes. They're not serious. They're not promoting entitlement. Quite the opposite. They're making people laugh. They're making people think, oh, that was so funny. What a little silly joke that was. They're not thinking, oh, I'm entitled to women. Yeah, this thing's making me want to go out and grab a girl and say, yeah, you're mine now, bitch. No, they don't. Anita, no. Only a sex-negative, middle-aged mum inside a young woman's body person like you and a beta male fuck-up like Full Macintosh could think of something like that and come to the conclusion that male entitlement is being reinforced by games having silly mechanics. Right, well done. Well fucking done for breaking the record of Full Macintosh. Well done. The originator had to, you know, stake his claim on Full Macintosh once again. Well done, Mac. Well fucking done.
These achievements are directly rewarding players for in-game behavior that amounts to sexual harassment.
I'm sorry, how is looking at someone sexual harassment? How is kissing a member of the French resistance in Saboteur sexual harassment? Anita, no it's not. It's just not.
Players are actively being encouraged to think of women's bodies as something they are entitled to interact with.
Citation needed.
That fact in and of itself is troubling, but it's just another example of the core problem with the women as reward trope. Game systems are designed to provide feedback mechanisms that either punish or reward players for the ways they interact with virtual environments. Because video games are constructed around these formal input-output systems, they can be an especially powerful tool for reinforcing cognitive patterns by modeling and rewarding player behavior. In a game, you're not just watching someone else being rewarded with a woman. You, the player, are earning a woman as a reward yourself for the actions you yourself have performed. Players make their correct inputs into the game. A woman's affection or her body is the corresponding output.
No, Anita, you see, the problem is, it's not the woman that is the prize. The prize actually is feeling good about saving her. It's the act of saving her, it's the achievement of saving her that is the prize, not the woman. Because as we will see in that classic, the guy could have gone for the gold when he kills the dragon and leave the princess, or whatever she is, to die in that prison. But no, he didn't. He saves her because those games and those stories appeal to men because it appeals to the area of their heads where the altruism is, where the altruistic side of guys, it appeals to that side where men want to be heroes and help people. That's why they're popular with men. It's not because they get women and they're rewarded with kisses and shit. That's just what happens after you've achieved it. That is not the prize. That is the symptom of the prize, if anything. And funnily enough, and this was in Sargon's stream, and this is absolutely right, you feminists also appeal to that altruistic side of men. That's how you've managed to indoctrinate people like Full Macintosh, because you're saying, oh, look at all these women who are victimised. They need your help. This is how white knights are created, because they feel that a woman is in distress and they want to help her. You are taking advantage of these men's altruistic natures and that side of their brain and converting them into feminist foot soldiers. And you're saying that video games are trying to do the same in a different way, but with patriarchy? Right. Shut up with that hypocrisy, Anita.
Players go through the process of saving the princess, and the game's algorithm dutifully rewards them with what they think they are rightfully owed for doing so, whether it be a kiss, a girlfriend, or sexual attention.
Look, people, look at his face. Does that guy look like he's expecting that woman to lavish all her love and attention on him? No, he doesn't. That guy's surprised. He's probably the first time he's ever met her, and she's kissing him and giving him a hug because she can't believe that he saved her. And the guy's kind of happy about that. That doesn't look like he felt he was entitled for a woman's attentions. He was doing the good thing that any good knight would do in that story, and that is to save the person who needs help and kill the dragon. He could have, again, like I said, he could have gone for the gold and got loads of women's attention through that. But no, he went for the one person that he wanted to save. That just destroys what Anita was saying. This guy's doing it from the goodness of his heart, not because he's entitled to her body. Haha, look, great face.
Social science indicates that one of the primary ways we learn about the world and our relationships to each other is through a process of observation and imitation.
Social science? Really? Oh my god. See, that describes psychopaths more than it does people.
Human beings also learn by seeing something modeled for us, especially when the modeled actions are accompanied by rewards or punishments. Video games are uniquely positioned to provide experiences that do all of these things, because in most games, the player occupies both the role of participant and the role of spectator to their own actions.
So, in video games, players are participators, not spectators. Even in QuickTime events, people know that they are merely spectating, not participating. That is why games like Life is Strange and Heavy Rain don't have particularly good immersion, because they don't work as proper video games, Anita. That's not how it works.
In this way, the women as reward trope in video games becomes a mechanism through which male entitlement is taught and reinforced in our wider culture. Cognitively, it's strikingly similar to the expectation that if a man buys a woman a few drinks, then he's owed sex. The money and time for the alcohol and conversation are the inputs, the sexual gratification is the output.
That's so stupid, because that needs to work. The man is a complete arsehole, and that he doesn't know what reality is. Well, how the fuck will a person get that from a video game? Just wondering, how the hell will a person learn how to be like that through a video game? The video games do not have these values. You have projected these values onto the video games, Anita. And you're making men sound like, and I'm going to say it, you're making men sound like Elliot Rodger.
When men's entitlement-based expectations are not fulfilled, they sometimes lash out in resentment or aggression towards women. This is clearly illustrated in the catcalling scenarios I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, see, you know exactly what men are feeling and thinking and how they would react in situations like that, wouldn't you? See, I am a man, and I know how a normal man would react in that situation. It's not sometimes they act aggressively and violently, no. They just go, oh well, I didn't get sex. Try again another time, maybe. Or go for a different woman, because she's clearly not into me that way. That is how a normal man reacts to situations like that. People like Elliot Rodger react aggressively to things like that. But of course, to sex-negative feminists like you, misandrists, we're all potential rapists. We're all potential aggressors to women. That's all we are to you. That's all we fucking are.
Street harassers feel entitled to women's time and women's attention. If they don't get the response they feel they're owed, they can become increasingly angry, following their targets, insulting them, groping them, or otherwise aggressively demanding to be acknowledged.
Yeah, she knows exactly what street harassers are like, don't you, Anita? You know exactly how it all pans out. You see, I know where you've got this from. You got it from that Walking 10 Hours of New York, that 3-minute video where that woman, you know, says that she's catcalled, when 90% of all the things she got from men were, you know, nice things like, hello, how are you? You look very nice today. There was only like 2 genuine creepy people, and let's not forget that she walked through very, very poor neighbourhoods. She walked through neighbourhoods that weren't just poor, but statistically were more likely for men to catcall her or to, you know, say hello to her in the street. They knew exactly what they were doing. That was a staged performance by her. These people had confirmation bias and went through places where they knew they could get that. It was fake. It was meant to make people see things a certain way. It was not honest. But of course, this isn't Sarkeesian feminism we're talking about here. Honesty doesn't come into it.
In the gaming community, we see this entitlement-fueled outrage.
That's 3 games she's never going to criticise in her video series, because BioWare is a social justice ally and a traitor to all gamers. And because she's referenced Mass Effect and Dragon Age, I know exactly where she's going with this. I mean, this is where the entitlement meme first came about, or at least became popular amongst these ideologues such as her and the gaming press.
Bubble to the surface when some gamers encounter indications that games aren't made exclusively with their fantasies in mind.
No. That was not the reason why fans complained about Mass Effect's endings. They complained about Mass Effect 3's endings because BioWare cheated them. They gave them a subpar product, and they gave them a subpar ending. They were promised, at the beginning of this trilogy, when it first started, that their actions would impact on the game's plot and give them multiple endings. What they got was nothing. What they got was something that they did not expect. The endings did not patch up their decisions and choices throughout the game. It just gave them these preset endings that the writers had made, because fuck you audience, that's why. They didn't logically conclude to what the series should have ended on, because, you know, the plot's supposed to, you know, branch out in different directions. It's an open game. That is why gamers complained, and people like you and people like the gaming press jumped on them, while BioWare did nothing to defend their own fans who got them to where they are. You attacked us because we disagreed over the direction of a game. It wasn't because of our fantasies. It was a creative decision that proved to fail. It failed, and it angered gamers because it was crap. That's why.
Angry public temper tantrums from straight male players have occurred.
Stop asserting and making assumptions in it about people who were complaining. It wasn't just straight male nerds who were complaining about Mass Effect's endings and Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age 3 or whatever. This was from across the spectrum. People of all kinds hated those games. Apart from Dragon Age 3, which is apparently more of a success, but I'm more judging Dragon Age 2 and Mass Effect 3. People hated those games because of the design flaws, not because their fantasies were fucking not appeased. You always whitewash over the other people in the gaming community because they don't exist to you. They're just sock puppets. Isn't that right, Anita?
When role-playing games have forced them to interact with gay male characters, or presented them with lesbian characters who were not available as romance options to male avatars.
That's disingenuous. Lesbian relationships were always available in these BioWare games. It was a cynical ploy on their part to not include gay relationships. They were always in the other games previously, but not in these games.
Angry backlash from straight male players also materializes when Western releases of Japanese games place women in slightly less revealing outfits, or increase the age of young sexualized female characters to 18.
Wow, Anita. So you're excusing censorship and instead attacking gamers, not because we have a sense of right and wrong, and we are mostly against censorship of all kinds, but we're perverts We're paedophiles. Is that what you're trying to call us, Anita? Us straight male gamers are paedophiles and perverts because we disagree with Western censors censoring Japanese games. You know, the reason we don't like it is because it's censorship. Like I said before, it's censorship. That's why we don't like it. It's not because we're perverts and paedophiles. You misandrist pig.
In the same vein, when presented with critical analysis of the poor representations of women in many popular games, this intense male entitlement manifests in aggression, abuse, and threats.
Oh, here we go. She's self-referencing herself. You know, trying to get you to donate to that Patreon because she's such a victim, even though most of these threats that we know of were either through third-party trolls trying to get a rise out of her, or she made them up herself.
As we've demonstrated in this episode, the women as reward trope is set up to fulfill a very specific male entitlement-oriented fantasy. In many cases, game creators may not even realize their mechanics are working to cement this mentality.
It's okay, developers. Mother Superior Sarkeesian will help you unlearn your wrong think.
But when games use a woman's affection, her body, or her sexuality as a carrot on a stick, they're actively encouraging men to think of women as objects, prizes, and status symbols.
No. The games are not making men objectify women. If anything, you're the one who's objectifying women and men. Because, you know, how else are you going to dehumanize us and make women the objects of, you know, things to say for your white knights, Anita? You objectify yourself with this professional victimhood so that you can get people to donate to your Patreon and your Kickstarter for more money. That's why, Anita. You're the one who's objectifying, not us.
And it's not just men who are affected. This ideology of male entitlement seeps into the wider social consciousness of everyone, regardless of gender. A byproduct of which can negatively impact the ways women relate to one another and the ways we think about our relationships to our own bodies and our own sexuality.
Masculinity, bad. Femininity, good.
The good news is that because male entitlement is a learned attitude, it can, through education and conscious effort, be unlearned.
Told you, people. Told you she was going to say that, didn't I? Told you. That is so Orwellian. It fucking hurts. That is scary. That scared me when I first heard that. You can unlearn your male entitlement. You can unlearn being a alpha male and become a beta male so we can control you and whip you around and make you do our bidding.
And game systems are capable of being part of that transformative process. Just as their interactivity makes them a powerful tool for reinforcing male entitlement, so too could that interactivity be harnessed to disrupt antiquated gender dynamics and engage us with game mechanics that explore more equitable interactions between people of all genders.